Social Perception by Andrea Ariola. Social perception is the study of how people form impressions of and make inferences about other people. People learn about others' feelings and emotions by picking up information they gather from physical appearance, verbal, and nonverbal communication. Facial expressions, tone of voice, hand gestures, and body position or movement are a few examples of ways people communicate without words. An example of social perception is our ability to pick up social cues. We understand that someone disagrees with us when they roll their eyes or cross their arms. There are four main components of social perception: observation, attribution, integration, and confirmation. By observing other individuals, situations, and actions, we are able to make inferences about others and the environment. Another factor within social perception is attribution. Attributions help us connect the dots between a person's personality and their decision making. The self-concept and self-presentation also affect our social perception. By taking a closer look at how we view ourselves, we can see how our look also influences the world around us. Finally, we will take a look at the bottom line of social perception. Let's take a look at observations. Observations have three main sources of data collection: observing people, situations, and behaviors. The process of social perception starts with observing people, observing situations and actions to gather evidence that support our initial impressions. People and physical influence. Although society tries to train people not to judge others based on their physical traits, as social perceivers, we cannot help but be influenced by others' hair, skin color, height, weight, style of clothes, pitch in voice, etc., when making a first impression. People have the tendency to judge others by assisting and associating certain facial features with specific personality traits. For example, studies indicate that people who are perceived as stronger, more assertive, and competent, if they have small eyes, low eyebrows, an angular chin, wrinkled skin, and a small forehead. People tend to associate baby-faced people as harmless. Situations and prior experiences. People are typically able to predict the outcome based on the extent and depth of their past experiences with a similar event. The ability to anticipate the outcomes of a situation is also greatly influenced by an individual's cultural background, because this will shape the types of experiences the individual experiences. Situational observations either lead individuals to have preset notions about certain events or to explain the causes of human behaviors. Behaviors and nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication helps people express their emotions, attitudes, and personalities. The most dominant form of nonverbal communication is the use of facial expressions to channel different emotions. It is believed that all humans, regardless of culture or race, encode and decode the six primary emotions, which are happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust, universally in the same way. But what is encoding and decoding? To encode means to communicate nonverbal behavior, while to decode means to interpret the meaning or intention of that nonverbal behavior. Decoding sometimes is inaccurate due to affect blend, which is a facial expression with two different registered emotions. For example, someone might look sad, or they might look disappointed if they're frowning, but we may choose to infer one over the other. Our decoding can also be inaccurate due to display rules, which are culturally dictated rules about which nonverbal behaviors are acceptable to display. Other nonverbal cues, such as body language, eye contact, and vocal intonations, can affect social perception by allowing for thin slicing. Thin slicing describes the ability to make quick judgments from finding consistencies in events based only on narrow frames of experience. Attribution. A large component of social perception is attribution. Attribution is the use of information gathered through observation to help individuals understand and rationalize the causes of one's own and others' behavior. People make attributions to understand the world around them in order to seek reasons for an individual's particular behavior. When people make attributions, they are also able to make judgments as to what was the cause or causes of a certain behavior. Attribution theory is the study of what systems and models people implement to make attributions about the behavior of others. It tries to explain how we use information about the social environment to understand others' behaviors. Attribution theory effect. One common bias people exhibit in attribution is called the fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error is our tendency to explain someone's behavior based on internal factors, such as personality or disposition, and to underestimate the influence that external factors, such as situation influences, have on another person's behavior. For example, blaming a person's behavior or personality for something bad that happened to them, like not getting a promotion. In this way, fundamental attribution error can be a barrier to empathizing with others, as we don't consider all the circumstances involved in the actions of others. Now let's move on to the self-concept. Self-concept is the belief a person holds about his or her own attributes and how the individual evaluates these qualities. Self-concept can be divided into 4 parts. The actual self, which is the more realistic appraisal of the qualities we have. This encompasses who I am right now in this moment. The ideal self, which is the concept of who we'd like to be. The private self, or how I am or how I'd like to be to myself. And the social self, which is how I am viewed or would like to be viewed by others. Self-schemas are beliefs about oneself that guide the processing of self-relevant information. People learn about themselves by observing their own behavior and comparing themselves to others. This is 9:52. And here. Self-presentation strategies that people use to shape what others think of them. People put on a public face that isn't always consistent with their personal lives. This is especially true in today's strong social media presence. In public, some people might self-monitor more of what they say or how they act than they might do when they're at home or in private or with loved ones. This is a mechanism used to blend in during social encounters. With all of this in mind, let's think about social perception and the bottom line. At times, we're quick and instinctive social perceivers, and at other times, we're careful and analytic. This means that sometimes we're more accurate in our perceptions, and at other times are more biased and based in error. This perception of oneself and the world around us can influence and change how we see people and how we view ourselves within the world. That is social perception.